Yeah, so that's where it's like I think it's okay to give up Mike Williams.
I
That's
think
why
he'll
that's why I
be,
brought it up.
yeah, no, I'm glad you gave me that perspective because looking at it that way, basically Drake London, I would say is going to be more consistent than when Mike Williams is because he's a possession wide receiver. And that's where like Drake London's game excels. So I think he's going to be an incredibly consistent wide receiver for one thing, but two, I think he's going to be better from a fantasy perspective than Mike Williams even. Okay, okay, ready? And oh, is it delayed?
That looked on point to me.
Okay, it's delayed because you were a little bit behind me, but I'm glad it's on point for you because
Okay,
that means it'll be
it
on
looked
point
on
for
point.
them.
It looked on
Okay, all
point to me.
right, here we go. Hello and welcome back to the Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast. We are down a man today, Josh. I'm Ethan, joined today, obviously,
No
by Josh.
rules. No, just kidding.
Yeah, no rules, pandemonium. The pastor's son is gone. So
Ah,
that means today's going to be a good episode. But no, we got a lot to talk about today. So following our mock draft, which by the way, to everyone who's watched that and blown that up, thank you guys so
yeah,
much for that.
yeah. Content for the people. We just kind of want to give you an idea of what the draft can look like, especially since draft season is here. Whether you're in
Yes.
redraft, keeper, dynasty rookie drafts, or startup drafts, welcome because now the fun part begins.
Yeah, the month of July is your period to get things right, or you're going to lose again, like Alex. But anyways, that's not the point. That's not why we're here.
Or
We're here to
Alex.
talk about kind of in case you missed it type items. So coaching changes, players, just the highlights of those. We're going to spend a really quick amount of time on that. We've had some crazy news in our league, so we're going to go over some of that. And then finally, we're going to talk about some drafting strategies. So, Josh,
Yeah.
why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so this is just going to be a big episode of we're just going to kind of recap the entire off season for you to catch you up on things you need to know, and then we also like showing our trades, especially in our league, to kind of explain to you some of the ideas that we're thinking of, especially regarding some of the players.
And what they're
Players,
worth.
yeah, exactly. Players help players. That's for sure.
Exactly.
And then especially with the draft strategies, and especially you and me, Ethan, there's been so many years that we've either drafted really wrong or had the greatest draft. And
I'm just absolutely
honestly,
coasted.
if you ace the draft, you have a great start. But obviously, the draft doesn't mean everything.
Like last year in our keeper league, I aced the draft and I drafted Debo Samuels, I drafted Cooper Cup, and I drafted Chris Godwin and Leonard Fournette in our keeper league. And that's what got me
Insane.
to the championship game. And
Yeah,
I only lost 2 games. And then week 15 happened. And I lost Godwin and Fournette and James Robinson.
yeah. Everyone lost week 15. That will go
Yeah,
down in
nobody
history.
won week
That
15.
and by
Even the people who
pockets.
advanced in the playoffs, no one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ethan, you ready to get into this?
Dude,
I
let's
say
do
let's
it. This is
start
going to be
off with
fun.
if y'all saw last week's episode, there were two major trades that were in contention. One was, well, and the first one that got accepted was the trade for Debo Samuel. Ethan and I were kind of in the running for that, just straight up talking about it. And
Yeah.
then,
Oh, we're just throwing feelers
yeah,
out
we were
there. We're
just
just having a good time. Yeah.
throwing feelers until Ryan goes, wait a minute, what trade was that again? And
Yeah.
we finalized the trade the next day after we recorded. But essentially, I picked up Debo Samuel
Do you
and
want to just show
Jalen
them?
Waddle.
You wanna
Yeah, yeah,
pull it
yeah,
up?
yeah, yeah. I have it up if you wanna.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
do
go
you
ahead.
have it up? So we.
I would have to scroll up a little
Oh,
bit. I
okay.
have it
Then
right
I
in
will
front of me.
share the screen. So,
I have the other ones ready,
oh,
locked and
gotcha.
loaded.
So I'll show this one. So this is the trade that we have at the moment. Just want to show you. I sent CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown for
That
Debo
you
Samuel,
that you
Jalen
acquired
Waddle.
literally the day before.
Yeah, literally the day before. and somehow in all of this picked up a future second round pick. Um, Personally, I would love to hear Ethan your thoughts first before I kind of go into my reasoning.
I I don't know. It's just hard because for me, I'm so high on CD Lamb, and I know a lot of people are too, just in the situation he is. So it's not that I didn't like your team before. The Almon Raw, I kind of understood because that offense has kind of gotten a little crowded now. and we don't know if Amon-Ra is gonna be the guy, like what we thought going into the offseason. So it makes sense, trying to get Waddle for him because Waddle's gonna blow up in Miami. I think he's gonna take away from Tyreek Hill. I would be selling Tyreek Hill personally if I had him. And I guess I understand Debo even with the hit he's gonna take to his fantasy outlook this year for not running the ball, but I understand it. And getting that second pick is just more disrespectful on it, but
Yeah,
good job, Josh. It's
it's
a
a
good
lot.
trade.
Yeah, I think it's a good trade for both sides, honestly, because I mean, for Ryan, definitely giving up CD hurt, but I
Yeah,
mean, I wouldn't potentially think about giving up CD unless like a Debo or a top flight receiver like that was
right.
involved. Really, my reasoning for this is I kind of went back and looked at before wide back became a thing. So before Week 10, Monday night against the Rams, I said, all right, what was Debo averaging at that time? He was averaging
Yeah,
23 points a game. So
right,
before the running the ball, before anything like that, just as a receiver, he was averaging 20 plus points a game. And that made me feel a little bit better about him being solely a wide receiver.
right.
And then,
And, you don't know till the season rolls around, which we talked a lot about
yeah,
last week, but I do think it makes sense for both of your teams for these moves because you know what Ryan was saying is I want to rebuild. I want
yeah.
to get younger. I want, potential
Which
guys.
that's still
That's what I want to
crazy
do.
for me, to be honest with you, because he has a
Yeah.
team that can win now. And I mean, but there's another trade that we'll talk about where he clearly threw himself in the contender race, whether he likes to believe it or not.
Yeah. I
Um,
don't understand why he doesn't think he can contend. I mean, his team is we'll keep going.
yeah, we'll keep
His
going
team
for
is
sure.
stacked.
So the to where this trade made sense for me and why I was like, yes, I don't want to give up CD, but I have to do this was getting Waddle. Like
Yeah.
that was where it's I could maybe if you think about it, Debo CD being a 1-for-1 swap, Waddle and Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's where I felt like the clear X factor was. And
Right.
I know like I'm getting at least one top 5 to top 10 receiver and then one bona fide top 15, whether they're Tyreek Hill or not.
Right.
And I'm way higher on Waddle right now.
No,
And
I agree.
that's to
I
me,
agree with
that's
that
where it's
completely.
the trade was like, this is an offer I can't refuse.
Because that offense is so complex. Because it's like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna double Tyreek, which you have to. You have
Yeah.
to give him cushion and double him and have safety
But
help.
and then you have
But then
another speedster with
yeah.
Waddle, and then you have Gesicki, and then it's the Shanahan
But
system with
and
Mike
I think
McDaniel.
Tyreek is gonna be a good mentor too on Jalen because they
Oh
have
yeah,
similar games.
yeah, similar games. But it's just here's what we love so much about the Kyle Shanahan style offense. I personally think out of all the people from the Mike LaFleur, the Matt LaFleur, um, there's one more, there's one more guy whose name escapes me, but now Mike McDaniel. I think Mike McDaniel's McVay. There we go. I
Yeah.
think it's either McVay or McDaniel as the next best person underneath Kyle Shanahan for me. And when I'm looking at the skill players, I have to buy into the coaching as well sometimes. And especially with this, no disrespect to Dan Campbell because I think he's doing a tremendous job in Detroit so far. I just think from an offensive perspective, would I rather have the Kyle Shanahan system or set something else? And I'd rather have the Kyle Shanahan system all day, every day, twice on Sunday. I'll go to Waffle House with it and pray. So it's all those things.
Right. No, I mean, it made sense for both teams. I mean,
Yeah,
no
definitely
one
makes
really
sense.
got
I don't
advantage. It's more of like a swap than anything
I
else.
agree, and it's definitely preference for this one. I think CD's going to
Yeah.
do incredible, honestly. Even though I'm not a big fan of the Mike McCarthy system, even though Kellen Moore is
Right.
pretty good, I think CD does have a lot of things that do need to get resolved, whether it's Gallup, Jalen Tolbert, something of that nature.
Yeah.
But I think CD's going to be an alpha. I think he's going to be that dude. So that was tough to give up, but when you get a deal like this, it's hard to pass up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it just made sense. So that was the first. And you
Yes,
guys kind of saw this at
that
the
was the
end
first.
of the episode last time. But then
There's
one more
insanity.
happened at the end of that episode, and we answered a very important question. And while you're pulling that up, we had to answer the question, what is it going to take to get DeAndre Swift
And then more
in a
importantly,
dynasty league?
what's it going to take to get the 101?
Right. And that was answered. We didn't think it would be, but it was definitely
We
answered.
we didn't, and you see Ryan's face, and I mean, Ethan, if you want to throw
Yeah.
up, oh wait a minute, I'll set that up. But if you want to just throw up the trade, and if we just show if you want to take a look at last week's episode, as soon as Alex said, "Yeah, I'll throw in the 101," you see Ryan like start talking to about other things. He goes, "Wait a minute, what did you just say?"
Oh yeah. I mean,
And yeah,
he
he
stopped
snapped.
what he
Yeah,
was
he
doing.
stopped exactly what he was doing, and it was like, "Oh snap!"
So this is what they came to. So
Yes,
Nyheim Hines, DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, the 101, and a second round in 2023 for
I think
DeAndre Swift.
this is a good deal on both sides, in my opinion. Because the
Yeah.
thing is, especially with Alex, is like he's this is a swing for the fences. If you think DeAndre Swift is better than all these other running backs, then by all means make the move. And
Yeah.
while Tony Pollard is good, Naeem Hines is good, like they're not like alpha dudes. This puts it into
Yeah.
the alpha category and doesn't put as much pressure on him to make Zeke work.
Hmm.
So that's why I think it's completely worth it for him. And Ryan,
Yeah.
even though he's saying he's rebuilding, when you get the 101, you have Kyle Pitts, you have Burrow, you have Chase, and you're probably going to add Brees Hall to this category. Let's be honest. Like, he should be the 101.
Hmm.
I
Oh,
mean,
Ryan's already said that. He
yeah,
said it multiple times. Like, I'm taking Brees Hall.
yeah,
He's made it
exactly.
very clear.
Yeah, he's made it very clear after we convinced him because he's thought, which check last week's episode for that. But like, it's it's a deal that makes sense on both sides. I think I applaud Alex for swinging for the fences more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, his team got better. It's like you said, he doesn't want to be the toilet bowl guy anymore. And if you don't want to be the toilet bowl champion, you got to make moves.
Yeah, yeah. And what is the phrase that we all come to know and love? Scared money makes no money, and
Yeah,
and that's what I think Alex is doing. And plus, Alex didn't have to give up the 105, so he still
right.
has a first this year. And I think that's very good of him to to keep that in
Yeah.
his back
And I
pocket.
mean, if he could swing Ken Walker at 105, I don't know why he would drop that far. But if he can swing Ken Walker at the 105, he
It
stole this trade
It's possible
for
because
me.
it depends, especially in our league. Phillips at the 103. Personally, that's where I think Ken Walker gets picked, but I could see him taking
Yeah.
a receiver. It's possible. He's in a weird
Yeah.
scenario that he could do one or the other.
Well,
But
and he's really big on Garrett Wilson too, as
yeah,
you should be. I mean, Garrett Wilson at 105 is a steal.
yeah, that would be a steal as well. So yeah, I think this deal, I mean, we found out what it takes for the 101. We found out what it takes for
Right.
DeAndre Swift. I think this is a good trade on both sides, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense for both because this kind of rounded out Ryan's team. Like Hines and Pollard takes care of depth and flex positions. He's got Brees Hall to replace DeAndre Swift, and then he's got an extra second next year for if there's a guy that he's just absolutely in love with.
Exactly. And
And
it does give him
this is
flexibility to trade up too.
the last thing on this is from Alex's perspective, he still has the 201, so he's still in Algier territory or James Cook
Yeah.
territory, so that can kind of fill out his
I think
open flex position.
I think Algier could be sneaky first round.
Oh, I agree.
I
I
think
don't
it's
think anyone's gonna pull the trigger,
no
but
because
he could be.
Algiers in a weird way is kind of like Antonio Gibson when he was a rookie. Like you're like
Mhm.
this is so good, but I'm so scared to do this because this could blow up in my face easily. And I think Algier's kind of the same way, but I'm
Yeah,
pretty sold on Algier being a year
an
one
impact
contributor.
player. Well, yeah, I mean, they've already come out on Cordell Patterson and said he's primarily going to be a wide receiver this year. That means they like somebody in that running back camp, and they've had Allison for years, and it doesn't sound like it's him. So who would it be?
It has to be Algier,
Yeah,
honestly. It just has to be.
Algier or Hawkins, but Algier's the three down back guy.
Yeah, and Hawkins is still a very good back, but I also have to remember he was cut last year,
Yeah,
multiple times if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
And a
I
lot of
think it was
times
just
that
once he's
is
picked up and then cut again for
yeah,
this season.
yeah. But I think he'll actually be a little bit more entrenched. Ever since they got rid of Mike Davis, I think it's been clear it's Algier, Cordero Patterson can be used in a multitude of ways, and then
Yeah.
I think Javian Hawkins is definitely going to be in the mix as well.
Yeah, I think Allison will be too, just because he's so consistently good, but he's just so situational. That's always been his problem with Atlanta.
Yeah,
but
So I say let's go to the next trade because guys, in our league, literally week
it
before the
blew up.
draft, it blew up
Yeah.
with two big trades, both of them involving Jacob Durant's team, and one of them involved my wife. And let's just say that was a fleece in my
That was an
opinion.
interesting one.
A very interesting one, as Ethan will pull it up. Basically, speaking of Cordero Patterson, he gets involved in the trade. So Ashley picks up Cordero Patterson along with multiple picks, two firsts, 1 second, and then
Ugh.
all Ashley had to give up is Kareem Hunt, Hollywood Brown, Gabriel Davis, and a fifth round pick, which I believe
Yeah,
is a 507.
we got to pay our respects for this one. I mean, this is just an overpay. I don't
It's
understand why.
even if you think that Hollywood Brown's going to be finally going to break out, or you think Gabriel Davis is finally going to be a one, ugh, the fact that you had
Now,
to give
now
up,
I want to break this down a little bit more, and then I want to explain the context of this trade.
yes,
So for the 2022 first pick, this is the 109, which is a
yes,
very important factor, I think. And I think comparing the 109 to either Hollywood or Kareem is fair
I think that's
in
fair.
terms of
To
I mean,
me,
especially Hollywood.
where the trade falls is the next year first.
Yeah, that's the one I don't understand. Maybe another second round, but I don't understand a first round next year for the package of Kareem Hunt, Gabriel Davis, and a fifth round.
Yeah, and Ashley was telling me what the deal was, and I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah, take that.
Yeah, I was like,
Like
take it. Yeah, like by
it's
all
not every
means
day
do
you
it.
get a first round pick for flex players.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of that, she gets an impact player in Cordero Patterson now. I think this definitely entrenches Ashley into a legitimate contender status
Yeah,
because she already has Tyreek Hill, Cooper Cup, and Mike Evans as receivers. Hollywood was definitely expendable. So if you can
right.
get Hollywood in a trade involving this amount, by all means, yes,
Yeah, get rid of him. You don't need him that bad. And just for the context of this trade, I want to tell the story of how this started because
yes,
it is just so funny to me. So basically, Duran was reaching out to try and get Mike Evans, and he offered Patterson and two first round picks. And he also wanted, was it Gabriel Davis, right?
yeah. So the original trade, as Ashley has told me, it was Mike Evans, Gabriel Davis, two fifth round picks for the two first and the second.
Yeah. And so that's where like Ashley just started going hardball on him, hardball on him, hardball on him. And then just she pulls the rug out on Mike Evans and says, Mike Evans off the table. You can have Hollywood. Give me your two first rounds, still Cordero Patterson. Thank you very much. And
Yeah,
that
I
was
mean,
just so funny to me yesterday when we were talking about the trade.
I will say full disclosure, like I was watching the trade go down, and then Ethan, and we'll talk about the next trade. I was watching that go down in real time, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So I had to actually
Yeah.
stay back and like be observant. But it was, I mean, as far as for Ashley, she has the 107, the 109. She has two second round picks. She has like six or seven picks this year. So not
Yeah.
only is she firmly entrenched in contender status, she's firmly entrenched in building for the future as well.
Yeah. She has everything she needs,
Yeah,
especially with the age of like Cooper Cup and Tyreek Hill. Those picks are going to be invaluable for her.
exactly. And especially a wide receiver heavy class like this.
Hmm. So I don't know. Maybe a blunder. Maybe this works out for Duran and he goes deep in the playoffs. Maybe wins the
Maybe
league, and
I
then we
mean
have to come back and say, "Oh, that was
let's
the right
let's
move."
give him the fair credit here. I think Hollywood Brown is going to get heavily targeted within weeks one through
Yes.
six. That could provide a good buffer. Gabriel Davis is a shot in the dark, but man, I mean, the playoff game looked really good.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt, though, does give him good insurance at the running back position, though. I
It
think
made sense
that's
for the next move that
it.
happened.
It definitely does make sense for the next move, which I let's bring it up
Yeah,
to
you want to
the.
pull that one up?
Oh yeah, I'll pull that one up. I gotcha. Do 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 do.
So this was my trade. I had been fielding offers for Nick Chubb, just kind of explaining the context. and I got reached out for an offer, and it was a really bad one at first. Let's see what his initial offer was.
I believe
Direct
it was
message from
just
Jacob.
the picks, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, it was 2 first rounds and a second round for Nick Chubb in my late round picks, to which I countered Pittman and Montgomery for Chubb, and we were able to settle on Montgomery and Pittman and his 2 second rounders this year for Chubb and my late round picks.
So I will tell you, especially with this trade, it does make the other trade make sense. So now his
Right.
receivers are Terry McLaurin, Mike Williams, and Hollywood Brown. That's a pretty solid group, if I had to be honest with you.
Yeah. That's not bad.
Yeah, and then I mean, giving up Michael Pittman probably stinks, but you are getting Jacob probably thinks he's getting an upgrade with Nick Chubb. I personally don't believe that this year, but Nick Chubb's still one heck of a back to where he
Yeah.
have Kamara and Chubb, so he's definitely running back heavy now. So I definitely think this. I think this is a really good trade. The two trades make sense for Jacob because I think he
Yeah.
retooled more with you than with Ashley.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I think this is just a good deal across the board. You
yeah,
know, it made sense for both of our teams. I might have gotten a little bit of the better end of it,
I would say so because I'm a lot
but
higher on Montgomery, and then Pittman is a
oh
very
yeah.
solid number one receiver.
I mean, I think Chicago is going to be a much better offense this year, and Pittman with Matt
Even
Ryan, I
even though
think is going to
they
be
seem talent
explosive.
deprived, I think just any sort of consistency with Chicago will make them a
Yeah.
better offense. Just
Well, I see Fields taking his sophomore leap, and this offense without Matt Nagy is going to be so much better.
oh yeah,
I mean, it
absolutely.
can't be worse.
And
Like,
I would
there's no way you get worse than Nagy.
yeah, that's true. There's one part of this trade I do want to give you kind of your thinking on, especially since you have the 102.
Yeah.
I think that's why Mike Williams was available, and I think you made a good move there. It's enticing. Mike Williams was the 11th ranked or the 10th ranked receiver
Yeah. He was 11.
in last year's stats. But if you think about it with the 102, you have Drake London right there. And
Right.
if you think Drake London can be a Mike Williams type, then yes, Mike Williams is expendable, especially in Dynasty. When you're looking at your draft picks and thinking about who you can get, that should give you a good idea of who is maneuverable on your team. And I
Right.
think
And
this was a great
for
move by
people
you.
making moves, especially in Dynasty and Keeper, that's one thing you have to keep track of okay, who am I taking in this class that I can then use kind of as bait? Because people were really interested in getting Mike Williams, as they should be. That kind of stunk for me getting rid of Mike Williams. But if I'm getting Pittman in return, I'm totally okay with that. It gives me a reason to watch Matt Ryan and the Colts. So
Yeah.
now I'll be happy about
On
that.
top of that, I mean, we've talked about since our draft is going to be rookies and free agents, giving up your fourth and fifth round to get the 2 seconds, like that, that's a perfect swap right there for you. You get
Yeah,
two,
it is a little
yeah.
harder because there's some late round veterans that I was looking at. Um, but it gives me more ammo for if there's people that I really like in the middle of the second round, I
Well,
can
plus,
go ahead and
I
go
mean,
after them.
plus you can also always trade down. Like I don't think
Right,
that's also like a crazy thing to assume. I can totally see someone trying to trade up if they're like, I need this guy now, so go for
right,
it. But yeah,
right.
ooh,
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I loved it for my team. Like, I love having Montgomery and the consistency. Pittman is going to be an upgrade at wide receiver over Deontay Johnson for me. I think it's just a great trade.
oh yeah, absolutely. And whoo, that's a lot of trades in one week.
Yeah, trades over 3 days.
Yeah, over 3 days. So for everyone who is still listening, that those are basically our trades, and those are some trades you definitely should consider within your dynasty or keeper leagues. Most I would say dynasty because draft picks are involved, but
Right.
if you want to think of just value and just give yourself a good baseline, like that's kind of what we, especially in our league, we try to be fair about these trades, and we
Right.
definitely will throw shots in the dark to see, oh hey, how you're thinking about this, and
Right.
if use this as a template.
Yeah, that's all we're saying. But now for a very brief recap.
All right.
Josh is going to run through coaches. I'm going to run through players. Then we're going to talk about your drafts and kind of some strategies for you guys just to help you out with them all coming up over these next couple of weekends.
Yeah, be prepared, guys. Buckle up. This is going to be a crash course.
Yeah, settle in. We're running.
This is going to be the off season in like 20 minutes. We're basically just going to tell you guys about what happened this year and big impact news when it comes to that. So I'm going to start with the coaches. There's a lot of coaches that did get hired this year, but quite a few of them you do need to keep your eye on. Miami hired Mike McDaniel from the Kyle Shanahan scheme. Very, very good coach, and the staff is pretty well built. Brian
So we
Daboll,
love
Josh
Miami
Allen,
offense.
yes, Miami offense, yes, especially with who they've gotten for Tua, great job. Now, the New York Giants, on the other hand, I do want to bring it up. They bring in Josh Allen's offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll. I think you could see an uptick in play from Daniel Jones, but when it comes to future talent, I say be on the lookout for the New York Giants. So a Wandale Robinson definitely looks interesting to me. I would also say this is the best running back Daboll's I think had with
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley.
And
I
historically too, Dable running backs have always been incredibly successful.
exactly, and that's the big key. On top of that, there's a few other news. Urban Meyer's finally gone. Thank you. So
Thank you,
and Doug
Jesus.
Peterson there. Now Doug Peterson, whether how you feel about him in Philly, just that kind of presence though
Yeah.
is is going to make Trevor Lawrence much better. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say, Trevor Lawrence, the addition of ETN coming back is definitely going to be very interesting there. The other two that we do want to talk about is Nathaniel Hackett being hired for the Denver Broncos from Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. And so with that one, you have to understand just they're very much on the pro concepts, play action. Those are things that Russell Wilson is very good at. So Cortland Sutton, Judy, Albert O, KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, those are people you got to be on the watch for.
Specifically
Plus,
Judy and Sutton.
yes, I would say specifically Judy and Sutton. On top of that, you still have the 1-2 combo of Melvin Gordon and Javante Williams.
And you're happy if you own either of them because
Yeah,
Green Bay was big about checking down the ball to running backs.
and having a 1-2 combo,
Mm-hmm.
especially with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon.
Mm-hmm.
The last one we do want to talk about is Kevin O'Connell. From the words that from basically what we're hearing about in Minnesota, not so much zone running anymore, but a lot of three receiver sets. Kirk Cousins, I definitely think, has shown he can handle multiple receivers in fantasy. And so when you have Thielen, Justin Jefferson being taken over, probably watch out for KJ Osborne, though. KJ Osborne and Irv Smith, especially if you need streaming help.
Did we make it? We made it to the coaches?
Yep, that is the coaches. Those are the kind of the big ones I want to talk about. So, whew.
All right. Now for our free agents, in case you missed it. So as you kind of mentioned, I'll try and break it down just by position. So at QB, we've got Deshaun Watson going over to the Browns. At first, it sounded like he was going to miss the whole year. Now, what I'm hearing is he will be suiting up in 2022. I
It's a
don't know how
maybe. It's
confirmed that is, but
latest
that's what I've been
rumors were
hearing.
saying 6 to 8 games.
Right.
But I think that remains yet to be seen. This is kind of uncharted waters when it comes to
Yeah, they're
NFL,
still
especially into
deliberating.
suspension. Not only the type of issue at hand, but also
But
the
kind
whole
of what the
process.
NFL's investigation was saying was that they didn't view him as doing anything wrong, is kind of the interpretation people are having of their
It's because
verdict.
that he also wasn't legally charged, and I think
Right.
that's the real big thing. I think this is a completely
Right.
different story if the grand jury did
To
indict him,
indict him.
but since they
Yeah.
didn't, that definitely that definitely complicates things.
So if you're a Browns owner, Deshaun Watson might be a trade for a target right now if you can get him for cheap. If not, I wouldn't say it's worth it just with the amount of games he's going to miss.
On top of that,
Um,
this does
but
impact Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt,
yep. Yep.
Amari Cooper, DPJ. This affects all of them, so be on the lookout. If you're dealing with Deshaun Watson, then obviously go in on all of them. But if you're dealing with Jacoby Brissett, this is maybe avoid
It'll
this
be
year.
rough.
Yeah, it will be
Yeah. It'll
rough.
be a rough 6 or 8 games.
I will say if it's only 6 to 8 games, I think a lot of those Brown skill players are very good trade for candidates mid-season. The
Yeah. They'll
ones that
be
will
mid-season
propel
trade
you.
targets. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think early season Chubb and Kareem Hunt, specifically Kareem Hunt, is going to be good. So if you
Yes.
can get Kareem Hunt for cheap, I'd be going for him. If you can get DPJ, that
Yeah,
guy is
I
a
was.
freak.
I will tell you right now, you better be looking at DPJ, whether because
Yes.
if he takes off for 1 week, it's over.
Yeah. After our draft, so we're going to be live. Oh, this is perfect time. We will be live streaming our rookie draft for
Yeah,
our league
either live
next
streaming,
week when we have it.
either live streaming it, or you will be seeing it next week for sure. That's a
Yeah.
guarantee.
But it will be, you guys will be there with us to see what we do in the blunders and the roasting and the love that we all have for each other, kind of. Josh and I will be
Kind of.
hosting again because Ryan's on vacation with his wife, which is
Yeah. Let man.
whatever.
I mean, Ryan's put in a lot of work. He's earned the vacation.
No, no, he doesn't.
Oh my,
But anyways,
Ryan,
so we
I
will be
didn't
live
say that.
streaming, followed by a gems. So we're talking about some now, but we have more kind of gems who are out there other than DPJ that you guys should be looking at and trying to trade for if you can. But we'll go over that in a future video. But just wanted to give a little teaser
Yeah,
in this video.
you gotta give a peek behind
Oh
the
yeah,
curtain.
we got a tease here. We're a big
Oh
teasing
yeah,
podcast.
yeah. Oh
So,
boy,
but
put
that's the
down the
Sean.
shirt.
We're a big teasing podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not. I wouldn't want to walk away with
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
but
yeah. Hi, what's your name? My name's Ethan McShane. I'm part of a big teasing podcast.
yeah. But Sean Watson, and he also got Amari Cooper. He's not a quarterback, but that was another trade for
But
Target. He's going to be
that's a big
incredibly
one.
useful going forward.
Yeah, and that
So
does.
that's kind of the Browns.
Yeah, that's kind of the Browns in a nutshell. Who else got moved? Because it felt like everyone and the
Yeah, I mean
fans
Russell
got moved,
Wilson is probably the next one we have to talk about. Him
especially
going to the
for
Broncos.
quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was just talking about this with some of my Broncos fans here in Colorado, but I mean, at some point, this guy will be bringing a Super Bowl to Colorado. That's just the player he is. That's the team that they have here. It might not be
Yeah,
this season. It
it's
might be
very
not. Or it might not be next
it,
season, but
the
it's going to happen.
AFC is super loaded,
Hmm.
but let's be honest, that the Denver Broncos as a team was ready to win like 2 3 years ago, in my opinion.
Yeah, they just
They've
needed their
always had a
quarterback,
good.
and now
They
they
just
have
needed
it.
a quarterback. They literally said, you know what, the Peyton Manning story, spin it again.
Yeah, spin that wheel one more time.
Exactly. And I think Russell Wilson's going to do really good. I really
Yeah,
think he'll be back into top 10 conversation.
no, I completely agree, and that just skyrocketed Jerry Judy specifically.
I
But
think,
I think
yeah,
Cortland Sutton will be. You should be talking about him as well.
Cortland Sutton is just dude who's like consistently moving the chains,
Hmm.
and I mean, he's just a big body receiver. That's perfect. Just kind of definitely start out with. It's kind of like DK Metcalf in that kind of sense. So I
Oh
would just
yeah,
imagine it in that
he's
regard. But
dominant.
yeah,
Yeah,
very dominant, and he was dominant
and
before a top quarterback.
also with Russell Wilson, he's historically had a pretty good relationship with tight ends, but he's never had anyone as physically gifted as Albert O. So that could be something to watch. I know we mentioned that kind of in our mock when Josh stole my secrets, even though it's not a very well
First,
kept secret.
First off,
But
I would like for the record, what's hilarious about that moment was I didn't talk to Ethan one bit about it.
no,
It's I
no,
we both came to the same
we
conclusion
knew. Yeah,
independently, which is hilarious.
yeah. So Albert O, I mean, shout out to Will Disley 3 years ago, what Russell Wilson and him had. I could see a similar relationship to that happening between Albert O and Russell Wilson, but we'll just see how the offense works together.
Yep, we'll see how the offense works together. And speaking of offense,
Yes.
so many offensive players got moved
Yes.
during this
Tyreek
season.
killed in Miami. We're going to see a little drop there. I mean,
A little bit of
gosh,
drop, but I mean he is with I would so here's what I think
okay.
with Tyreek Hill. Yes, there's going to be a drop. You have Jalen Waddle there. You don't have Mahomes. You have Tua. Makes sense. But Mike McDaniel coming from the Shanahan system, there's probably not a better person besides
Yeah.
Kyle and McVay themselves
Yeah.
that can scheme people open like Mike McDaniel. Mike
Yeah.
McDaniel's been that guy. How he sees football has been incredible. Everyone's known it. Now he finally gets the chance. That's why I'm excited for Tyreek Hill and Waddle because I think you're
Yeah.
going to see some like insane things happen over there.
Me personally, I'm selling Waddle, but that's just me. or not Waddle, Hill, Tyreek Hill. I'm selling.
I think Tyreek Hill just also with the years aspect, like especially in the dynasty format, I would just say count your days when it comes to Tyreek Hill, just because he is going to be approaching that age or like over 30. I think Waddle is definitely there to be the guy
Yeah.
that moves forward.
But then we also have Devonte Adams, who's changed locations. He's back with his old QB and Derek Carr. I love that move for them. That offense is going to be crazy with Hunter Renfrow and Devonte Adams. You got Zamir White, which will be the future running back for the Raiders. When we get to draft strategies, we'll talk about Zamir White, but
Oh
we
yeah,
can't do that right now.
yeah, not yet, but Ethan and I are on the same wavelength there.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs, I'd be wary about. I'd be trying to sell him. He's not going to get as much usage as he did last year, so that's kind of unfortunate for that. Other offseason moves. Oh goodness,
Well, the
Mike
big
Williams
one,
re-signing. That's important. Well, sorry, what's the big
Allen
one?
Robinson to the Rams is another
Oh,
one.
Allen Robinson, the Ram. That's just an upgraded OBJ.
Exactly. Especially right now, at the age for sure.
Yeah. So
Trying
I
to
love that. His talent was ridiculous to be stuck in Chicago. They're gonna love him. Stafford's gonna love him.
Yeah, and I think it's going to help Cooper Cup too. Is just
Yeah.
having another really good possession guy, and like Allen Robinson can win on his own too.
Mhm.
Which is if you can have two receivers that can win on their own, like especially in that McVay offense, let's start rolling basically right now.
Yeah. I think other important moves is Rojo signing elsewhere, which isn't important for him, but it's important for Fournette. Fournette
Yeah,
is going to be the primary guy in Tampa Bay. He could be a midseason trade for a target. I'd be trying to target him now if you can,
I
before
think
people realize how valuable he is.
if you have CEH, I would say go get Rojo. Just get that
Yeah,
insurance
insurance.
for
Yeah.
sure. But also it does seem like Rojo is definitely going to be the power back. I think CEH is still going to be the starter, but I think they may use CEH in more ways, especially with the Tyreek Hill trade in the rear view
Right.
as well.
Michael Thomas might be coming back. We're
Maybe.
still waiting to hear on that. Uh, but also on that Saints team, Kamara, the 6-game suspension is incoming. So just be aware of that.
Yep.
Gosh,
Let's
is that
see.
is that everything?
I might
Did we make it?
did we?
I mean, there's
I
a
mean,
lot of defensive stuff,
let's
but
talk about the most recent one. Terry McLaurin got signed. He got the bag.
yeah,
Three years, 71 million. I
that's
basically
huge.
huge. Washington desperately needs it, but the cool thing about Terry McLaurin in this situation is if you think he should be out, it's only a 3-year deal. And that's
Right.
really the big thing to take a look at. Let's
But
see.
we love
Oh,
him. We love him getting paid, making him happy. Terry McLaurin's going
yeah,
to be a monster this year.
yeah. A couple retirements. Gronk is really the big one.
Oh yeah, RIP Gronk owners,
Yeah, but
aka
I mean,
me.
the greatest tight end in the history of football, finally is retiring for a second time. But man, he deserves it.
Yeah.
Definitely plan accordingly. And there's a one draft strategy we will tell you about that. Let's see. I'm just gonna look up quite a few, but I believe those are the main ones.
I
Oh,
think the
wait,
only
there's
the
two
last
more.
one is Matt Ryan.
There's two more. Three more.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan, Hollywood Brown, AJ Brown.
Okay, let's talk Matt Ryan first, and we'll
Yeah.
go down the list. So
Yeah.
Matt Ryan, you can get him later in the draft. I would be picking him up. I love him. He finally has an offensive line, so he's not going to get sacked as much. But the pressure he is going to get, he was the number one passer of throwing out of sacks and throwing out of pressure in the NFL for multiple years. So whatever pressure he's going to get, I love him for that. I'd be picking up Matt Ryan. He's going to have a phenomenal season. He's already got chemistry with Pittman.
All right, I'll be the hot take guy here. If you can't get Lamar, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Herbert, Burrow, or anything or anyone like that, keep your eye on Matt Ryan. I think he's a sneaky good option if you want to bulk up
I think
on
he's a
running backs and
sneaky
receivers.
QB8 or
Yeah,
QB7.
I think top 10 is very much in the horizon, even high top 10. I think it's very possible. If you told me Matt Ryan is QB6 on the year, wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. And that the Colts won the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah.
If they, nothing would make me happier than see Matt Ryan win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, coming from the resident Falcons fan.
Okay, well, shut up. So Hollywood Brown, this is your guy. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so basically during the NFL draft, this is kind of one of the big ones. Hollywood Brown got traded to the Arizona Cardinals for pick 23, and they also picked up pick 100. The Cardinals did. So, so Hollywood goes back to Kyler Murray, and in a spread system that is honestly, yes, a little bit more favorable, but if you're, I would say be buyer beware on Hollywood Brown because the
Mm,
D Hop suspension is coming. We've
yep.
seen Hollywood not be the greatest at wide receiver one, so it really depends on how you view him as a player.
Now, I think it will work having AJ Green to kind of break up some of that pressure, but I don't know. I think you're
It
right to caution it
I,
still.
I'm cautioned because there's also Rondale Moore,
Yeah, that's
and
fair. There's a lot of wealth to go
yeah,
around in that offense.
and plus James Conner, and now they have Darrell Williams on top of that. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Then the last big trade, AJ Brown traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts gets a bona fide number one along with Devonta Smith. I Miles Sanders still on that team. Eagles it could be a very interesting option this year for fantasy.
Yeah, I feel like they've been kind of looked over in the past as kind of flex players, but now this might be the year where, you know, Jalen Hurts is going to be a top 6, top 7 quarterback, and Miles
Yeah,
Sanders is going to be a top 15 running back, and
very
AJ Brown
possible.
could still, you know, come back from this last season where he's top 20 something. I don't remember what it
Yeah,
was,
he was just hurt all the time.
but
But when they
yeah,
said, "Hey, AJ Brown, I need you to win the game for us," that's what
he
he
did.
did.
Yeah, he dominated. So
Yeah,
I think it's a good move for them. I think
and
you're going to see them pass the ball more.
I think you'll see Devontae Smith do a whole lot better.
Oh, it'll be
He
both of
was
them.
getting beat up a bit, like he was having the whole brace on him. So I think he'll be a lot healthier going into later in the year.
Yeah. So we like Eagles from a fantasy perspective. I think the
Absolutely.
last free agency news would be an injury, which would be the injury to Chris Godwin. And if you can get
Yes.
Mike Evans, if they're selling him low or selling him at fair value, I
Yeah.
would pick him up because he's going to be a monster to
I will
start the year.
tell you, as far as a keeper perspective, do not trade him until like week 6 or 7, personally, because
Yeah.
I think he's going to get the volume to where he will win you weeks.
Yeah.
Even though that
Oh
Russell
yeah.
Gage is there, Fournette's back, and especially with Gronk gone, I think Mike Evans will
He'll be a
definitely have.
perennial 30-point threat.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with Brady back, who
Yeah.
unretired. That's how crazy this offseason's been.
Shout out to Tom Brady.
Yes, the goat of quarterbacks. I will tell you, just I think Mike Evans is a legitimate threat, but he is a trade away candidate midseason. Then
Yes.
Godwin will be the trade for candidate once he gets back.
Yes. Yes. If you can turn Evans into Godwin when Godwin returns, you're a legend.
So the big thing is you have to listen and read all of the reports coming out of the Tampa camp because there's
Yes.
been some we've heard October, we've also heard December. So it's those are you have to just time it out right.
Well, we've also heard earlier than October.
That's true. So
I've heard
no
as
one
early as
really knows.
September.
Yeah, no one really knows right now.
So that's a wait and see. Definitely follow it very closely. And I think that's all the important free agency news.
Yeah, that was fast.
But hey, but we got it in there.
We got it in there. Ooh, now I think we'll take us a little bit
Deep
slower
breath.
now. Yeah, deep breath. Whoo. So that is going to be our off-season crash course and the off-season in review. But now, probably the one thing that you're all here for. There are some draft strategies. We are in draft season right now. We want to kind of tell you our experiences, especially right before our rookie draft that will be airing next week. We do kind of just want to explain. Here are the things we've learned, and here's some tips that you should walk into for
Right.
your draft.
I think I want to go first. And my first piece of advice for your draft would be don't reach. Okay. I mean, it's the same for every single draft in the NFL, other major leagues. You cannot reach for players. In years past, we've seen people reach for Sanjay Perrine over JJ. So that's what we're talking about. I don't care how overhyped a guy is, who's hyping them up. Don't reach. Take the value, take what you know, take your potential, and be happy in your draft. So if you're if you're in an option between Ken Walker and I don't know, Treylon Burks, and you don't know who to take, what's the value? It's looking like Ken Walker's going to be the starter in Seattle. Treylon Burks having some issues at camp. We don't know how good that offense is going to be. Take your value.
And I think the big thing is just you just go with your gut. Like, who do you think is going to
Yeah.
be the guy that's going to make it work? Like, just if you can eliminate any noise, especially when you're drafting, that's such a big thing.
If you
But
ever have to say, "Oh, I should take this guy, but I really need this person at this position," you've already made a mistake.
exactly. So I'm ready to go into my next lesson because this took me a while for me to learn, and I think it's a big lesson for everyone who hasn't done this as often as we have.
Yeah.
Do not care about bye weeks. Whatever you do, you have to build the best team possible. And if it means that a lot of your players aren't playing week 14, then so be it. However
Yeah.
the draft goes, like, you just do not sacrifice your overall strength of your team just because the bye weeks are similar. You don't want to
I
do
mean,
that
there's
for
enough
yeah.
depth in this league where bye weeks aren't as big of an issue. I feel like
That's
that
the
was a huge
that's the point.
fantasy past uh, issue, but now that's kind of delegated now because
Yeah,
you have so many flex players that you can flex into your wide receiver two, your running back two, your whatever your need, and then bring a guy off the bench and be completely fine.
could not agree with you more with that. Like, that's exactly the point. Is there is so much depth and so many good players within the NFL now that that's completely like out the window. So just do whatever you can to make sure you draft the best team possible. Don't worry about bye weeks.
Right. And then in terms of your rookie mock drafts, just be careful with where you start drafting your vets. Obviously, everyone's free agency is different, but I'd say this is a sneaky deep class. So you don't want to
Yes,
start drafting your free agents too early and miss out on your Zamir Whites, your David Bells, your Jalen Tolberts, miss out on those guys
your
who,
Justin
yes, are they
Ross,
projects? Yeah, your Justin
uh,
Ross, and yes, are they projects? Absolutely. But it will be worth it in your keeper leagues and in your dynasty leagues.
and most likely those free agents are going to be available for a while.
Yeah.
The big thing is just taking advantage of drafting a rookie now. I do agree with you, Ethan, especially with this draft specifically. There it is maybe the high end level talent is not there, and even then I'll still debate you on that point. But this is a sneaky good class. Like, we did our rookie draft, and Pierre Strong was in the 5th round. I would
Yeah.
gladly take Pierre Strong in the 5th round. Uh,
Right.
Chico Conquo didn't even get drafted at all. Granted, kickers somehow got involved, but that's a whole nother story. But like, there's a lot of good depth to where we were grading players, and I'm like, that dude could be something.
Right.
And if you think that person could be something, by all means, take the player.
Go get them. Yeah.
Yes,
And don't be afraid to make moves. I mean, like you said earlier, scared money doesn't make money. You have
absolutely.
to take risks. If there's a guy in your guts like, I love the fit, I love the team he's at, I love his potential, I love what he could bring to this team, go get him. Go get him,
Exactly.
take your shot.
Yeah. 100%. Scared money doesn't make money. But I would say another one, don't be afraid to put coaching into the decision making. This is
Yeah,
my
I
opinion.
agree.
I think there's a lot of coaches where if there is such a clear coaching discrepancy between player A, player B, I think you have to take it into account. I'm trying to think of the best example was trying to think of a good one. I mean, there was back in the day. I know there was a Saquon versus I want to say Derrick Henry or something like that. And
Mhm.
we're all like, well, Saquon's a better player, so let's go with Saquon. And then over time, it's obviously been Derrick Henry. But
Right.
there was a giant coaching discrepancy that just no one talked about at the time. So I think when it comes to a lot of players, whether it's receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs, especially tight ends, it doesn't really apply to as much unless you're Mark Andrews.
Or Kyle
Take
Pitts.
or Kyle Pitts, take coaching into perspective. Have that at least within within your
Well, yeah, I mean,
evaluation.
you don't want a coaching carousel, and that's what they're
Exactly.
dealing with in New York, and then you have the absolutely stellar Mark Vrabel down in Tennessee running a tight ship.
Exactly.
You know,
And
that's what you need.
like not every carry is equal. Not all catches are equal. Like those are like big things that you have to worry about. Like between like how, for example, how Debo Samuel is getting touches versus how Amari Cooper was getting touches. Clear discrepancy on how that was happening.
Right.
Or like how what kind of completion Kyler Murray was getting versus one when Carson Wentz was on the Eagles, where Carson Wentz was like, "Hey, you're going to have to fit this ball in here because that's just how the offense rolls."
Right.
So
And
you have to take coaching into account.
yeah. And I guess my last thing would be especially with this class specifically, be careful how many wide receivers you take in the first round and what wide
Yes,
receivers you take.
yes,
Because
yes,
there
yes.
are a lot of question marks around guys like Christian Watson, Traylon Burks, even Olave. We have no idea what that Saints offense is going to look like. Is Mike Thomas there? Is he not there? Is Olave beating people out? Jarvis Landry is rising apparently. So be careful with who you take and where you take them would be my advice.
Yes. I mean, especially even in redraft leagues, I would say be careful of the receivers. Um, just because all receivers will have an off day. That's just how
Mhm.
it is. But that's where the running backs, that's why running backs are always picked a little higher, just
Right.
because they're going to be a little bit more consistent when it comes to that output, unless you're naming Nick
Unless you're
Chubb in
Cooper
week
Cup.
17. Yeah, unless you're Cooper Cup too. But yeah, I totally agree with you. The receivers, I think, just let the board play to you, just because you don't know what each team is going to do or how they view it. I mean, we had a lot of discussion talking about who our top receivers were because it was just in a completely different order than a lot of people. They're just that close to each other. So especially in that case, let the board fall to you unless you're convicted on one dude. It's like this is my guy.
Yeah, and one specifically I wouldn't fall into the pitfall for at least a few seasons would be David Bell. I mean, Stefanski isn't good about scheming wide receivers open. He's kind of a I have my number one wide receiver, I have my number one running back, and that's how we're going to play football.
Yeah,
I know there's one person who's really high on David Bell, and David Bell is a great player. I would love to have David Bell on my team, but I'm not going to use a high pick to get him. And if somebody else wants to take that shot, I'm going to let them make that move.
and I'll take it from the coaching perspective. Kevin Stefanski's never really had the greatest drop back passing scheme, and we've seen that from his time in Minnesota as well. And really,
Yeah.
what made it so good in 2020 was I think he had one person that was a McDaniel's kind of coaching tree, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong on that, but
Yeah.
the big thing is, especially with that, is especially when it comes to the depth players like David Bell, Justin Ross, Alec Pierce, like you have to also buy into the coach's scheme. So that's like
Yeah.
personally for me, unfortunately, Jalen Dolbert is a great player and he was a great
Yeah.
prospect coming out. I am nervous with Dallas though. That's just personally my opinion. Which I
No,
mean,
I
that's
agree.
I mean, here's the last thing I want to bring up because I experienced this last year. People drafting, you can never have too many running backs
Hmm.
because what have we seen time and time again? Running back injury, running back injury, running back injury, running back injury. You can never have too many running backs. Yes, you can get caught up in all the receivers, but your team will fail if you don't have enough running backs.
Yep. No, I agree. I mean, our league champion had the best group
Had
of
the
running backs.
Yeah, Elijah Mitchell, Najee Harris, Jonathan
JT,
Tate, yeah, JT, Sony
Daryl Henry,
Michelle, yeah, Darrell
or Daryl
Williams,
Williams at the end, Devin Singletary at the end of the season, Sony Michelle at the end of the season,
yeah.
and that's where he caught form.
His top receiver was T. Higgins, who is not even in the top 20.
Yeah.
Like that was
And
impressive of him
Thielen,
to
who was
do.
injured multiple weeks,
Exactly. You can
but his
never have
running
too many
backs
running
carried.
backs.
So
Exactly.
yes, if you're in a startup and you can get a carousel of top running backs and good wide receiver depth, maybe not, the best, maybe not the number one guy or top five guy, but solid wide receivers that are going to consistently get you points. That's where the separation will be in who wins the championship and who doesn't.
Absolutely. I mean, the last one I think is just the most obvious. Trust yourself.
Yeah. Trust your gut.
Absolutely. Yeah, trust your gut. A lot of times it's going to be right. And if not, then you'll just learn. And because the big thing about the draft, you do not win your league in the draft. You win by how you keep progressing throughout the season.
Yeah. And in the off season. So with some of these things that we've told you about, guys to go and get, guys to trade for, value guys, go make your team better.
Exactly.
Win your
And
league.
I would say, shameless plug here, we have followed the off season to a T as from the very end of the last season until now. We even have taken a whole week dedicated to just the rookies, so people that you need to take a look at. If you want to check out more of the off-season content, getting ready for your draft, just take a look at our past episodes. They are right up there for you
Yeah,
to
rookie
watch.
week, our mock draft, our free
Statathon,
agency news. Yeah, Statathon. If you want to look at what guys produced last year and some projections of what we think they could do this year, go check it out.
yeah, go check it out.
It's
But
free. It's available. Emphasis, it's free.
it's
It is free
free.
advice. It is FREE.
That spells free.
Oh, throwback
Oh,
to all of
all throwback. I really
all
hope
you Gen Z
copyright
and
doesn't.
millennials.
Yeah, yeah, y'all know
Yeah, we
exactly
didn't
where
sing
that
the
went.
jingle. We're okay.
Yeah,
Everyone
we're
knows what
good.
we're talking about, but we didn't do the
Yeah,
jingle.
if you know, you know.
And if not, you're really young,
You're
and
too.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
you're
Because
too
go
young.
educate yourself. Go
Yeah.
educate yourself.
So Ethan, dude, whew,
We
that
made
was a
it.
we made it. That was a crash course episode, but we
Yeah.
hope we've basically caught you all up on what happened this year and basically getting ready for draft season,
For your
which
draft, which should be this
it's
weekend, next weekend, or the following.
finally here.
I know. We're
Finally
so
here.
close.
Dude,
We have
football is right around
what
the corner.
30 less than 30 days until preseason.
Yep, I can't wait for football season. So,
We're very, very excited.
dude,
I'm very
very
excited.
excited. Be on the lookout. Our rookie, not mock draft, the real draft. Our rookie
The
draft
real
is actually going
draft.
to be airing next week.
No more mocks,
Yeah,
no more hypotheticals,
the
no more
real
talk.
deal
It
is
is
here.
going down.
And with all the trades that we talked about in the very beginning, it is going to be one crazy draft.
Yeah. And me and Josh will be hosting again.
Yeah,
Ryan won't be joining us for that either. We might have some league mates. We're still working on that.
yeah, we're
Um,
still confirming that, but basically almost everyone will be there drafting.
yeah, everyone will be
So
there drafting, but we might have some people who are going to stop. I know Tyler won't be, but Alex was a maybe. Michaela was a maybe. I think Jacob was a maybe, and maybe we need to talk to the champ to see if
yeah,
he's going to come
the
by.
champ has to join in because
The champ might be back.
yeah, we need to see his reaction based on the last couple of weeks of trading.
Yeah, and we just missed Paul. We love
Yeah,
Paul here.
yeah, the champ is always here in our hearts.
In the words of Jackie Moon, everybody loves everybody here.
Perfect, perfect.
That's the best way to sum it up.
That is the best way to sum it up. But guys, thank you again for listening to the Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast. Don't forget to hit us up on the socials: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Also, if you have any fantasy like conversations that you want to start, feel free to just post them anywhere. We will try to respond to them as quickly as we
We
can.
love responding. We love
Yeah,
just talking football. Like
yes,
if you guys are like, "Oh, I view this guy differently," we want to talk about it because
ex-
we just love talking football.
exactly. We just love talking ball. We love just getting and just seeing where everyone is thinking. That is the greatest part of the fantasy football itself is the community.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am Josh. That is Ethan. We
We will
heart
see
each
you next
other.
time.
Yep, we will see you next time. We love y'all. We'll see y'all next week.